Hello and welcome to Eagle Lodge. And for anyone who's new to the channel, my name is Helen Davita, and I'm all suited and booted for the kitchen. I've been playing with some ingredients, which I think is very apt considering what I'd like to talk to you about today. So on this day, it's Wednesday, so we call it Wobbly Wednesday because you might have noticed I've got a little wobble, a little tremor going on, and that's my normal. And so I'm embracing my normal. And today I want to talk to you about, it's kind of self-care, but it's about self-preservation, but it's also about teamwork and how important it is. And I know I'm not alone, like some of you out there will feel the same. A lot of work in the spirituality field is really being played out, promotion and the work itself is being played out online, social media in particular. And if you're like me, it can sometimes be very disheartening to see that people who are nowadays, if you like, social media intuitives, healers, mediums, and they've built themselves up primarily through social media, are feeling very, very hurt at times. And this hurt often plays out on things like Facebook and Twitter and Instagram even. And you can see they're posting up quotes showing really how hurt they are about situations, but also about how other people in the field of work have hurt them. They're competing. It's horrific, really. And there's many times I look at what's going on and I despair, because we didn't have all this when I started working. You just went out there and you trod the boards, if you like the actors used to do starting out. You did your demonstrations mostly in churches and centres. Perhaps you worked at home. But social media was not as relevant or common or available as it is now. So, you went home and you suffered your traumas and insecurities, or you might talk to a mate. But it has created a very different type of field of work. And I think what's very important is we remember how important it is that we build a very positive network. And this was something that I remember very distinctly, talking to somebody who works in the field of spirituality. And we were having a good discussion about this a few years ago. And she works in a different field of spirituality to me. It's one I don't fully understand, but I fully respect her and that field of spirituality. And I was talking about how it can really get you down. Even if you're coping very well yourself, you might be surrounded by other people who are not coping very well. And they're very competitive, and after a while you're swimming in this sea of egos and hurt. And that's more what is disturbing, is the hurt. If you've got ego problems, well, you got to get over yourself. I don't want to know. That's how sympathetic I am to egotistical problems. But hurt, when you see people hurt, it hurts you. I was reading a newspaper story this morning of a very sad case of somebody who took their own life. And, I've still got that with me. Now, put that aside, because I can cope, but it's still there. I've read it. I can't take it away. And I've taken on board the element of sadness, and that depth of compassion within me is motivated, if you like. It's set the engine running. So what I really want to talk about today is about building a network, and building a network of trust. when you think about it, we are exposed to some pretty traumatic situations. Now, how often do you actually take that on board? Or are you just concerned with making sure that you got the evidence, you did what you should do, and that the person thought you were good? If that is what matters to you, then you're kind of inhuman, really, because you can't switch off from what has happened to other people. And in this work of healing and intuition, you will be working with some people whose lives have been changed very dramatically, and whose stories, the backstory to why they've come to see you, is often absolutely tragic. You may have people coming to book with you who have someone that in their lives that took their own life. Perhaps they died in a tragic accident. Perhaps it was a murder. And if you're telling me that, oh yeah, I can cope with all that, then yeah, I mean, we come across it all the time, but are you really coping with it? Because it's going to have an effect on you. So the upshot of this with building the networks actually is strengthened by something that happened very recently. And one of the things that I do is I used to mentor a lot, and I still have some mentees, if you like, and we keep in touch. And I supervise as well. And that is a little bit like people who are professional counselors. So what happens with the counselors? If you're professional, you have a supervisor. And that supervisor you check in with once a month. You'll go and see them once a month. You'll go perhaps with your case studies, and you will talk about what's happened that month. Now, obviously, in our world, what happens between you and the client is totally confidential. You certainly can't give any identifying information. But to those counsellors, they recognize professionally that what they're exposed to, no matter how much you can switch off from your work, does, unless you've got a heart of stone, does affect you, and you need to offload. So what I'm saying here is we really need to be supporting each other and building a network where we can do that. So when I was talking to this person this week and we were online, she said to me, she said, you know what, I see what we do as supervision, and I feel so much better. A monthly check-in, I go through how things are at the moment, how things have been, what's coming up. You don't judge me. If I ask for help, you give me your take on it. And I look forward to it, but also it helps me cope. And if you like, we've all got to look after our mental health, haven't we? We've all become so much more aware of mental health. And I thought about it, and I thought, this sounds good. I said, do you know what? And this person runs a development group. They're teaching themselves. I said, what do you think about setting up a system like this within your own development group? And she said, brilliant idea. She says, I know they'll love it. I said, it's got to be done right. You've got to make sure that there's a trust between the people, that everything's confidential, and that there's no judgment. So, when you've got your person come to you for their monthly offload, you're not going to think there and saying, I don't know why they got so worked up about that. It wouldn't bother me. You just have to totally accept that this person wants to offload this information and place no judgment, no critique on it whatsoever, not even offer any advice unless they ask for it. So those really are the criteria. So we talked about this being set up within the group. Now, the amazing thing was, this person said, actually, I run 2 groups. And from that came the idea that rather than choose your best friend, now we can all choose a friend we trust, we respect, but was to have someone independent, that this was your role for each other. You are each other's buddy system. So I suggested about just putting the names in the hat and pairing them up that way, because if they just chose their best friend, well, they're going to get sidetracked on what's happening with the family and, you know, where they're going on holiday and the usual things or whatever it is you talk about with your best friend. You want someone that this is set aside for that purpose. Well, the brilliant thing was, because she ran 2 groups, she said, well, I could pair them up because they don't know each other. And she said, I'll set them up, tell them the purpose, and be bitten by mosquitoes. It's that time of year. Forget that. I'll set them up, talk about the purpose of it, but they'll be in separate groups. So the other thing is what they've offloaded to each other. They're not coming back to me every week to sit together, you know, which for some people might be uncomfortable, being in the same room with their spiritual development with someone they've just, you know, poured their heart out to the day before or even an hour before. So this worked really well. I thought, yeah, this is really good. So what I want to just come on here to do today is to encourage this if you think it's a good idea. I think it's a brilliant idea, and I know a lot of people out there are probably going to respond and say, oh yeah, I always talk to so and so and that, but it's not about your problems. And even if you have a really good month, you still need to go and have that supervision, if you like, and say, well, actually it's been really positive because of blah 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 blah. You're dealing with it, and hopefully that's going to help. Because I would love more than anything, and I'm sure you're with me on this too, to stop this nonsense that we see on social media of people with their feelings so hurt, playing out their lives and emotions, and even getting into arguments and nastiness. And we've all experienced it. We've all seen it. You know, I've had experiences, and maybe one day I'll do a video about that, where people have tried to discredit me and my work in the same field because of this competitiveness. And you think, you know what, we're all in it together, and we should all be supporting each other. And the other thing is, because I've always encouraged support networks, is I have no issue with referring people to the right person. So that's it. Wobbly Wednesday. But remember, I do this supervision thing. It's brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And, you know, you don't have to be a specialist, but it must be confidential. There must be trust. There must be no judgment. More than anything, actually, that's really important is you must acknowledge how that person felt. Even if you think, they're overreacting, they're oversensitive, oh no, I wouldn't have done that. Forget what you'd have done. Just accept. Come from a place of non-judgment. And I think if we can set that up, and we set it up right from the beginning of development, those of you who are running courses and groups, set it up, encourage it every time, and set it up and say, right, we're going to do this where you've got a buddy system, and for the next so many months, you know, you're going to be in touch once a month with each other, even if it's by messenger. If you can't phone, preferably speak. It's easier. We've got video, we've got Skype, we've got FaceTime, we've got Zoom, we've got everything, haven't we? There's no reason why we can't keep in touch wherever we are in the world. And that might be another one. Perhaps you want someone in another part of the world. You just got to think about time zones then. But encourage it. And perhaps, you know, we will find that will build more respect for each other, will trust each other, but also will understand each other a little bit more. So that's my bit of wobbly wisdom for Wednesday today, and I wish you a wonderful day. I've got a soup cooking at the moment, and for once it's not all over me, all my clothes, and those are my ingredients for a bit of nutrition today. Think about the nutrition of your own mind and your development. There you go. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.